Hi everyone, welcome back. It's Nikki here, and today I want to show you a little flip through of my 100-day project as we have reached the halfway mark. Well, actually we're just over it, but didn't have time to video over the last couple of days, so I'm doing it today. Now, I wanted to do the 100-day project. Got a little bit caught off guard when I found out it was starting on the 31st of January. Normally I think it's about April, but thanks to Willa Wonders, she came up with a great idea that I thought I could participate in. Something easy, something quick, and again, this is another project that I'm trying to do without spending a single cent. So I grabbed a binder that I had in my cupboard and I just created a little plate for in there, and this is my stash. And what this is all about is creating collage fodder. So what I did, I grabbed pages out of magazines, photocopy paper that may have been a bit bent, you name it, I've put it in here. But all of these things probably would have ended up in the bin if I decided not to do this project. Now, these are designed to be backgrounds. Or, for example, in this case, I could cut out some individual leaves if I felt like doing it. But otherwise, the whole idea there, it's backgrounds. I've kept it all in this folder to keep it all neat and tidy. And you can then use these things for junk journal pages. You can use them in your everyday journaling. It's just playing with color and all of the goodies that I have in my craft room and creating something that I can use at any time. And especially when you're really busy and you don't have a lot of time, when you have something like this ready to go, it can make journaling a lot easier. So let's have a look at what I did for the first 50 days. This one was a magazine page. All I did was grab some watercolor and paint it on some leaves. I could use this page whole, or as I said, I could cut out the individual leaves. Next page, again, I was just playing with some watercolor and I put some black marks on it, but left it at that. I didn't want to get any more carried away because then it's not a background anymore. It's like a completed page. And these are supposed to be simple, basic things to use as backgrounds, to be chopped up, torn up, or use the whole page if I feel like it. So watercolor with some black acrylic paint sort of dotted on around it, and I left it at that. This one here is a collage piece. Again, I think I used, yes, an old magazine page, and I've cut out all these little pieces from their backgrounds in magazines. So every one of this was in a magazine, and I just glued them all down. So that's a collage sheet ready to go. This one, again, was a magazine page. I just grabbed a stamp, some black acrylic paint, and this, sorry, not a stamp, a stencil. This stencil has the 4 patterns on it. So this way I can use it as one piece. I can just tear off a little bit, but I just used the entire stencil on that page. This one here was just a piece of green paper that I had. Look, it had a tiny little mark on it and I went, let's pop that in there. And then I just played again with some black acrylic paint, just put some marks down. These sort of things look really good if you tear a piece off and get like lots of little bits of what you've created. Doesn't exactly look that exciting as a whole page, but it really, tearing up or cutting up a little piece really can look good on a journal page. This was actually some leftover paint, so I literally just grabbed a old credit card and I swooshed it down. Again, something would look really good, just tearing off a piece that showed you all the colors. This was, I was experimenting with some coffee dyeing, and I actually quite like this page, but I went to town with my coffee stamps. I have plenty because I love coffee, and these will be great used up in a journal page. It's just all sorts of coffee stamps on a coffee background. This one here was just me playing with some spray paint as in like, I think dilutions and things like that. Different colors, I just splotched it all around. Very colorful background. This one here, it's a little bit hard to see, but this was a plain blue piece of paper, and I've put this gorgeous blue shimmer ink on it and just let it run down. Bit hard to see, I don't know if the camera will actually catch the shimmer, but it does shimmer. So that was that one. This one was watercoloring, just painting circles. Just dabbing in paint, love how they turned out. Probably will cut these out individually and use those on a journal page. This one here was a bit of watercolor on the background and then just stamped on some leafy style arrangements on that one. Again, this is one, pardon me, I will probably, pardon me, cut out and use the individual leaves for that one. This was just playing again with watercolor. What I often do is if I'm doing some other sort of project, I create a page using the products that I have been playing with. And this was just a multitude of watercolors. Again, I think that'll look really cool as a stripe of paper. This was, again, I had some leftover dark green paint. I splotched it down, added a few other tones of green, and then I did some stenciling of leaves on top of that one. I love how that turned out. That's really cool. This one here was just some gold paint dotted onto a page, but I love how that turned out. This was another coffee dye experiment page that didn't quite turn out the way what I actually wanted it to look like, but I love how it turned out. So I've just stamped on some sort of vintage style stamps on that. I'll be cutting those out and using those, no doubt. This one here, I used a white crayon and drew the squiggles on it and then just splotched some watercolor on for a bit of a resist look. Love how that turned out. More playing with watercolor. This was a piece of leftover watercolor paper. The quality I don't really like. It had something down the bottom here which I cut off and threw out because it didn't work at all. But again, just made some pretty cool colored circles. This one here was the same thing again. I had been using this jade sort of colored paint, so I just quickly credit carded it across the whole page and then used a toilet roll and some copper paint to stamp the circles on. Again, another magazine page, and this was just a thick chisel tip marker. I just drew stripes on it. Again, this will probably be one that I tear off or cut off and use, you know, a strip of it or a square of it or something like that. This one here was, we're in autumn now, even though it's quite warm here still where I live. But I realized I didn't have a lot of autumnal colored things in my stash. So I thought, right, we'll start to add a few of those. So this was just some watercoloring in some nice autumn tones. Same thing I did here and stamped some leaves on it. This one here was simply, I've got a messy number style stencil, just put it down 4 separate bits and used black acrylic paint for that. This one here was just creating X's. This one here was some leftover paint yet again. I just painted down some stripes. Normally with leftover paint, I have a use it up journal, as I call it. It's just an old book that I pop, you know, excess paint in. But at the moment, while I'm doing this project, this is where all my excess paint is going. So it's a great way, like, you know, you go through magazines, you pull out the things you like, don't throw out the rest of the magazine. There's no reason why you can't do something like this with it. It's just a great thing to do. This was a page in a colouring book, and the colouring book sort of fell apart at the spine. So I have put a couple of the pages in here, and I just threw some watercolour down. I think, again, I will individually cut out those doilies and use them. Here's another collage sheet, but this time I did it all with lovely bright colours. Just a variety of markers, making some marks. This one here, I actually had in that way, but then turned it over, and I loved the look of this background. So I just grabbed some stamps, again, a little bit of a vintage theme / style, and I just stamped it out onto this background. And when I cut those out, I think that should look really cool because I love that, that sort of imagery in behind there. This one here, again, leftover paint. But then what I did on top of that was I got some... Why do I always forget what this is called every time I do it? Modeling paste, that's the word. And I covered it in model pasted hearts. Again, now this was just another leftover piece of watercolor paper that I just simply threw some color down on because I love playing with watercolors. These just make the best backgrounds and things. This one here, I just made, I did some messy dark blue splattering on top of the red and white check paper. This one here was more, this was spraying with Dilutions sprays. Love the colors in that. Again, just leftover paint, but they do make great backgrounds. This one here, this was a little accident. I was doing something else, and this pink is it actually does have a metallic sheen to it. Probably, again, a bit hard to catch on camera. And the spray thing wasn't working, and I had undone it, and I was going to go and try and clean out the spray head to get it to work. And I knocked it over. I managed to catch it very quickly, but I just sort of turned the paper around like this and just sort of let it all dry and threw some black splattery things down on top. But it actually looks quite cool. Oh, this one here, just having fun with acrylics and the end of a pencil that, that has an eraser on it, so it has the round thing. So that's just lots of colored dots. This one here was a stamp set, an alphabet stamp set that I forgot I had, that I discovered when I was searching for something else. And so I just covered the whole thing in letters. I thought that turned out really cool. Again, just playing with spray paints. This one here was just a little bit of sort of leftover paint, and then I got a bit carried away, adding all sorts of stenciling on top of it. This one here was actually a page that was a cleanup page. It was already a bit dirty, and I had a little bit of paint left over on my mat, and instead of using paper towel like I normally would to clean up, or a baby wipe, I used this piece of paper. You can even see my finger marks where I applied pressure, but I actually thought that was a really cool grungy looking page. This one here, it's hard to catch on camera. There's just some metallic paints down on that. It's got quite a cool sheen. I'm sure I can do something useful with that. This piece was actually, I was cleaning off my stamp after I had been using it, and I looked at that and went, oh, that looks really cool. I'm gonna pop that in for the day, so I kept that. This one here, again, I went for a bit of a grungy look. It's quite dark tones on the pattern, on the photos on this magazine page, and I've just covered it in copper paint. Had a little bit of fun stenciling. I had some leftover green paint, so I got my leaf stencil out for this one, and I actually ended up doing both sides of that one, and also did some more stenciling. I love this big stencil. It feels so very summery. It's so cool. This, again, was just practicing squirting coffee onto paper to see what result I got. So I decided, oh, look, that can be for that day. And it's dual-sided, so depending on how dark or light I want. Again, we've just got leftover paint, and with this one, I just got some gesso and used my stencil on that. This one was just a little experiment, seeing if I could write the alphabet out, but with a paintbrush. And yeah, it's not the most amazing thing, but again, I think it'll look really cool, just cut out in bits, not where you sort of see the whole alphabet, just little bits and pieces, but I thought that was a perfect page for in there. This was another sort of clean up mess page, which by the time I'd finished what I was doing, I thought, oh, that's really cool. I'm definitely going to keep that as the day's entry. This one here was just writing out numbers with a chisel tip marker. And again, the whole page itself doesn't really look very exciting, but it really is fabulous for little backing pieces. I love how that turned out. And that's that. We've hit the end. I'm ready to keep going. I've already got my pages ready for the next 50 days. I am now a couple of days behind, so we shall do some catching up, but that's fine. Just thought you might like to see this. It's a great way to use up your supplies. Experiment maybe with supplies that you've got that you haven't used yet or haven't used for a long time. Just grab yourself a folder and pop it all in here. And then whenever you're journaling or junk journaling or playing with anything, you can just use little bits and pieces or whole pages. I hope you enjoyed this flip through. And if you are new to this channel, I would love it if you would subscribe for lots of planning and paper crafting inspiration. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments section and I will happily answer them for you. Until next time, I'll be back in another 50 days to show you what I get up to over the next couple of months. Until next time, take care, stay safe, stay healthy. Bye for now.